So greetings from the Mercedes-Benz EQE. This is the electric equivalent of an E-Class basically. I have just jumped into the car, like this second. So let's go for probably a very brief spin. I think I've got about 15 minutes in the car today. So this is total first impressions. We have 292 brake horsepower, we've got about 550 Newton meters of torque, and it all feels very lovely and very planted actually. Very, very planted indeed. So let's just open up the traps for a second. Struggling for a little bit of grip there in the wet. Our range at about 95% is 463 kilometers. Our claimed range is WLTP 641 kilometers. At 300 brake horsepower, even down on the EQC, it is a little bit less, but actually I think it's pretty much all you're going to need in a fairly torquey electric car. Now, to get a lot of response on the brakes, the way electric cars generally work with their braking system, you've got to plant the foot down on the ground. Let's go over a little ramp here and see. Okay, so it is harsher. We're on bigger wheels for starters. I like the red belts, gives you kind of a feeling of something a little bit sporty. Now, definitely compared to the previous Mercedes EQC, you definitely notice there's a lot more of an agile drive going on. You know, they want you to be more engaged with it, but it does mean that you're paying the sacrifice in that it's a little bit harsher on the ride, and the suspension definitely is more set up for a more enthusiastic drive, that's for sure. So you can of course get the screen that fully wraps around. This is the more integrated infotainment system. I love how you get the ambient lighting going on in the car. I love the dials here, the steering wheel, very modern. I love all the plates here for adjusting your seating position, your heat, and again you just get a true sense of being cocooned in something that is quite special. The seats are lovely and really great quality off them. I suppose, well, getting into a car of this price, like we're at €85,000 list price, and this car has an AMG interior and exterior pack. It has a premium package which is a fairly eye-watering €12,000, and that brings the total price to €105,000. So it is not a cheap car at all, but it is actually pretty spectacular looking inside and outside. And just looking around the interior, there's plenty of space in the back. To have a car of E-Class size that's going to work with electric, it's pretty impressive. I have to say, having just jumped into these cars for the very first time, I've had no briefing on them really. I got here late to the launch. They're incredibly intuitive to use, and again, if you have jumped into a Mercedes in the last few years, you won't feel like, God, what do I do with that? Now, I get that I get to drive a few more cars than your average person, but it just all makes a lot of sense between the decent infotainment system, the touchscreen nature of it. Your dials tell you everything you need to know. Physical buttons, they feel like physical buttons, they may not be. It's all good. Decent boot in the back. Plenty of space for golf clubs. Not that I want to be drawing stereotypes on E-Class drivers. I think rear legroom, everyone's going to be happy with that because there's tons of it. There's good room for feet. It's a sharp looking car. I mean, if you think kind of CLS vibes to it, it's got that overhang on the front of the back. It doesn't necessarily scream that it's electrified, although what they're using as the braking system within the alloys just in the center there, they do look a little bit different, but again, that's kind of par for the course for a lot of electric cars. That's just what you're getting these days. Also turns in very well. If you're on the right type of road surface, it's very, very smooth. I can see it getting a little bit bumpier, and if you're on a harsher road or whatever, but again, as I mentioned earlier on the video, that's just it's going to come second nature with those upgraded alloy wheels. You obviously don't have to go to those extremes for your alloy enjoyment. I mean, to make an electrified version of essentially an E-Class, which has been such a success story for Mercedes from all those years, I do get into it and feel like they've done a pretty spectacular job. Now, I'm in my 40s now, and maybe that's showing my age as well, but I just think this is class inside. It's really, really good. I can see why it might alienate an older, more conservative Mercedes customer, but again, that's up to you for your trim. But looking around me here, it feels very, very comfortable, and probably beyond what BMW and Audi are doing, actually, if I'm to be truthfully honest with you, of the interior quality. So, very rushed first look at the car. A few of my thoughts right now, and come back to us. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, where I'm hoping to get some longer looks at some of the cars from Mercedes over the next little while. So thanks for having a look around with me today at this first look at the Mercedes EQE, an electric version of the E-Class. First impressions, very quick impressions. I like it. It's well put together, very much a decent range. Do let me know your thoughts on where Mercedes are going in terms of electrification. Within the next 20 years, they're going to be a fully carbon neutral company. And if this is where they're only starting out, relatively speaking, it's very, very interesting. Thank you for watching.